Hello, everyone. Um, Thank you very much for joining us today for this International Women in Engineering Day 2020. We have two very distinguished speakers with us here, Dr. Nikita Hari and Dr. Megha Agrawal. So before we go on to the speaker introductions, I would like to tell you briefly about VigyanShaala. VigyanShaala is a group of various researchers and research fellows based across the globe who are trying to bring about a systemic change in the scientific ecosystem in the country. And we are trying to achieve this by creating novel ecosystems that not only put youth at the epicenter of scientific development, but also create pipelines that were not existent, that connect the youth in the remotest part of the country with scientists and researchers across the globe. This is the so-called fourth industrial revolution, and in this era, we shouldn't be limited by technology, per se, to sort of bridge the gap, access gap that exists in terms of knowledge and the youth that has access to it. So, and Shala, we are trying to and leverage the power of technology to sort of connect the pot of knowledge to the pot of need. And this is our first step in that direction. And we realize that our girls and women need a specific targeted program delivery directly to the girls. So our project Kalpana is a very special program that targets girls across the country and makes role models such as Dr. Nikita, Dr. Megha, and many more visible to these girls, and so that you can directly connect with them and learn from their inspiring journeys and their fabulous work that they are undertaking. So that's all for now about VigyanShaala. And I would like to now move on to the speaker introductions. Our first speaker today will be Dr. Megha Agrawal. In her words, she is a scientist, an innovator, and a strategic ideator. She is passionate about creating effective and affordable healthcare solutions. By training, she is a biomedical engineer and has global experience in biosensing devices, orthopedics, digital medical technology, and healthcare from conceptualization to launch. Through her years in the medical industry and academia, she has demonstrated lateral thinking, which resulted in inventions, patents, international publications, invited talks, and leadership roles. She is a passionate advocate and mentor for STEM education for the younger generation. She has been awarded the Exceptional Talent by the United Kingdom government. Dr. Agrawal has a PhD from the University of Cambridge in engineering, and later she was a postdoctoral research scientist at Imperial College London as a faculty for the future fellow from Schlumberger Foundation. She has worked extensively in the field of ultrasound for diagnostic applications, and she earned full fellowships for her doctoral studies at Cambridge as well as her postdoctoral studies at Imperial College London. Currently, she is managing director of LIRMOS, that is Luxembourg Institute of Research in Orthopedics, Sports Medicine and Science. It is a not-for-profit organization aiming to deliver scientific, economic, and societal values in the field of orthopedics, sports medicine, science, surgery, and rehabilitation, research and development. Dr. Agrawal also manages scientific collaborations with the senior research for the translational research platforms of human motion orthopedics, sports medicine, and digital methods of the Luxembourg Institute of Health, focusing on implementation of the new movement, activity, and digital reporting techniques in the clinical research practice. She's also an alumni of IIT Bombay. Um, and so now I would like to give it to Dr. Megha Agrawal, hear her story live. for all of you. And I would like to remind the audience, you keep posting your questions, comments, and we can collect those questions, and we will uh, put all of them for the end of the presentation after Dr. Nikita has finished presenting. Thank you.
Thank you, Darshana, for that very kind introduction and really this warm invitation for this great opportunity to celebrate International Women's Day with in Engineering Day with all of you here. I feel privileged to share just a part of my story. I'll start my share screen in the meantime, and most of my talk will basically focus on parts of my journey, like Darshana already stated in her introduction. So, what I would like to just say here, can you all see my screen? Can you see all my screen? Darshana, maybe you can give me a feedback.
No, I cannot see your screen yet, but yeah, I think it's coming up. Yeah, we can see your screen now, Megha.
Yeah, for the first slide. Okay, great. So, my idea today to talk to all of you was to just give you a glimpse of my journey, but basically, please treat it as a drop in the ocean. So, there are so many inspiring stories all around us, and just by means of sharing what I have done and how I have done, I plan to tell you a few lessons that I've learned along the way. And I really welcome all your questions at any level, at any stage. Please feel free. So, the way I've titled this is to tell you my story and my journey as a biomedical engineer. And basically, I am from the interdisciplinary field, which is, I think, the future. And also in today's exceptional and traumatic times of COVID-19, we have realized that so many different disciplines should work in amalgamation, in conjugation, which were not really thought about, be it like law or government or different interpolitical problems together, along with the science and technology and healthcare system and so on. So all of us really have to come together, and interdisciplinary shares that feeling to some extent. So, briefly mentioning about my journey, what I plan to do, I'll not read through everything here because I want to show you, because a picture is worth 1,000 words. I want to show you what I've done through my journey. If you can see my screen. So, a little bit of my career highlights throughout the different various stages. And on a personal level, also, I would share that now I am a mother of an active 22 months old daughter, and I really enjoy being in this new role of mine, which is like a working mother role. So I'll share with you my journey. Tomorrow or maybe today afterwards, Darshana and team will share what I think I have learned throughout these years. Lesson that is very important for me is to realize that I should not be afraid to be the first and sometimes the only one, and it often happens. Unfortunately, women in engineering are rare, and I hope this is not the norm in the coming future. So it will still be that you will be the first. It doesn't mean only based on your gender, but it could be in any other terms. So you could be the first and maybe the only one with that specific skill set, with that specific nationality, with that specific gender, that you're sitting in a boardroom, but don't be afraid of it. Second thing that I've learned is to just ask, because I think if you speak your mind, it really works wonders, and you never know how willing the other person is to help. And but it's important to say that out. So that's the second lesson. The third lesson is really, I think it's much more imbibed by my family and especially my father, who's always inspired me to observe and to absorb things around me. No matter where I am, if I am in the working mode or not, but really to really have a holistic experience to absorb as well as observe things, because that only I felt that led to making the right connections, make and joining the right dots. So based on that, I would start with my presentation about really what is interdisciplinary, and there could be many definitions to it. one of the definitions which I found in the very basic sense is if physics, maths, and biology get combined. And this is, I'm talking about my thinking when maybe I was in my 12th standard or before, or 10th standard, when there was a decision making point about what to do. So I knew I was interested in all these subjects, and I did not want to let go of any one of these subjects. So I tried to learn as much of these subjects. So I found that, and also by experience throughout these years, when you have a combination of many different fields coming together, sweet spot where they intersect is really the place where magic. So I've realized that what we study in school and carry it throughout these years, I've realized that science is totally interdisciplinary. Moving on, when I went to my engineering college, this was in the year 2003. Um, I've realized that was another decision making point after 12th, giving all these engineering exams and so on, which discipline to choose from out of these various plethora of options. So there was this turning or the crux moment in life where there was discipline of engineering, and I was also interested in human health and making life healthier and comfortable with the amalgamation of engineering and medicine, and also a bit of art and design, and like really putting aesthetics into place. So this was another area, this is another area which is still very widely studied between the intersection of these. So one such discipline is biomedical engineering, and actually really these combinations are endless today. I know maybe only a limited number of combinations, but in the future there would be so many that we can actually not imagine them today. So this is the point where I want because I wanted to study a little bit of medicine as well as engineering. I thought, why not go for this new subject called biomedical engineering? And actually, that was the first time this subject was introduced in my college. That was in Raipur in National Institute of Technology, and I sort of was probably the first one to join this course. And that decision sort of shaped my life and also turned my life around, I would say. So I started as a biomedical engineer. During that time, I'll briefly show you what I did. It's the project that I did at the end of these 4 years was studying the ambulatory blood pressure monitoring. By ambulatory, we mean any person who is moving around. You can actually measure the blood pressure throughout their normal activity times. And we had an instrument. We put the cuff around, and we wanted to study the blood pressure rhythm. So our hypothesis really was, do we see really like a pattern in blood pressure? Because it's not necessary that when you measure a person's blood pressure at one particular time of the day, that represents the true value. So it was really, and we did find that there was a rhythm which can be correlated to circadian rhythm. The word circadian just means with a time period of 24 hours. So things like what we say, oh, I'm a morning person, I'm an evening person, it really shows on your graph, and you can tell when a person is not feeling as energetic, and when he or she is feeling as energetic. So that was my first glimpse to combining biomedical engineering projects along with health and so on. So that gave me a good insight towards how basically research is conducted. Then I got the opportunity to pass the graduate aptitude engineering gate, and I studied electronics and communication just for that exam. And I was really fortunate to be admitted to IIT Bombay. That was really my dream. Another turning point in life. There were three different options out of which I had to go to one. So I had a job as a software engineer. I got an admission at NITI to study management, and the third one that really I wanted to do was to study masters and really advance my understanding about biomedical engineering. So I went to IIT Bombay to study my master's in technology. There I got a really that is another turning point where I got a chance to explore my interests, which was to create affordable and effective healthcare solutions, especially for developing countries, especially for people who have limited resources, and to study how a medical device is fabricated, tested, and then looking at the other stages. So that was just about a year project where, along with my team, we studied patent ductus arteriosus. In simple words, this means some babies unfortunately are born with a hole in their heart. And I'll just show you the anatomy. If you see here, this is the basic diagram of a heart, and there is, when a baby is in a mother's womb, there is basically a hole naturally, because we are not breathing at that time, we are not exposed to air, the nose and the lungs are not working. So how nature has designed us is that because there's only one type of oxygenated blood flowing inside the heart of a baby, there should be a hole that does not create a shunt between deoxygenated and oxygenated blood. So that is how nature had designed it. That is called patent ductus arteriosus. But right after birth, actually, that hole or that shunt should close. So that should close by itself. But unfortunately, in some babies, it is not closed, and then we say there's a hole in the heart. And this is just one of the, I think, four or more types of holes in the heart. So we just specifically worked on one of them and showed that we can also design the same device for other holes. So when the baby is born like that, you might have heard of the term called blue baby, because the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood gets mixed up and the baby appears blue in color. So the solution so far is to use like a stent like device. So far it has there's like a monopoly of a American company, which is quite expensive. So we thought, why can't we develop or make a design which is simpler, cheaper, and probably more effective. So this design was inspired by a badminton shuttlecock. There were other iterations of our design inspired by a flower, a mushroom, and so on, or an umbrella. So basically, what it does is, when you insert this device through a minimally invasive surgery inside the body, it is a straight line, and then when you put it inside the place, it balloons up like a parachute or like an umbrella. So we designed this device, we tested it, and we got the patent granted for this one, and I'm quite proud of this one. So I will not go into too many details, but this is just to show how you test a medical device in the lab. You cannot really do it in vitro, or in a patient, and also not in animals so far. So we wanted to test the mechanical studies of this device, doing different studies. We had the American company. So here in the B, you see the American device, which was quite expensive, and then our device, and we did lots of different mechanical tests, simulation tests, to show really that our device was as effective as well as much cheaper than the others out in the market. So here are a few results from which we got a few publications and the patent. The next stage of my life in 2009 to 11 was, I got an opportunity to work as a design engineer at Stryker Technology, and my place of work were global, in the US, London, and in India. So basically, we were looking at bone implants and bone plates. So not it could be in the shoulder, it could be in the hip, the femur, or the tibia. So really looking at fusing the joints of the bone when there's a fracture or a trauma. So there could be various types of designs and iterations and like combinations of how you want to design this device. So I had multiple hats at that time as well. I was working on the design and the risk analysis, and how the production line happens, and how you're launching a product into the market, and how you're looking really at the innovation side. So for example, I'll just show you how you think about a problem. So it's very important to realize how you define the need and what is that thing that is most important to solve a problem. Now, if you say, okay, number one here, I just want to create a better design for for a screw head in that implant to prevent rounding off while screwing. So this is something that you observed in a surgery that the doctors or orthopedic surgeon is saying. So then if you if you limit the scope of your thinking, you will only think about, okay, how can I look at another screw material or redesign the screw head and so on. So although these are faster to implement, they might be easily adaptable, it solves an existing problem, but these are incremental solutions. It's not really out of the box, or maybe you cannot really think too much in breadth about the innovation. But suppose you question the same problem in a different way, that I want to create a better way of fixing implants for bones with a probability of ease of detachment in the future. Then you are looking at a wider spread of problems, that you don't want to really just solve the screws, or you could look at other new ideas. Maybe it could be a glue, it could be a cement, it could be just another way of casting the bone and things like that. So here's the area where maybe innovation happens, but again you need to think about the in other problem areas, or another other um, uh, pros and cons, really, to think about maybe the regulatory problems or adaptability, how much lead time or how much feasibility, how much resources you have, and things like that. So it's just an idea to tell you how do you think about a problem. So this was the time in Striker. So this is just an example where I designed another. This is a CAD model of measuring the humeral head. So there's a ball in the shoulder that you measure through different devices. That was a sort of an innovation at that time. Uh, so so at that time in Striker, I'll just conclude that I was getting opportunities to really work with global leaders, to work with global teams, and experience how really the industry works in the medical field, and also to explore to some extent innovation. But as I told you, the feasibility, the financial constraints, the resources, and so on, there could be only so much that you can do. So I was already starting to think about uh, the next move. At the same time, while at Striker, I was selected to be one of the only people to join the team at Stanford Biodesign. So Stanford Biodesign program is a great program where they bring about young researchers, young people from different disciplines together under one roof, and give them like 3 months to immerse in the problem, in the situation of finding a medical need, and really taking a problem from like conceptualization to launch. So there I was really fortunate to be the team lead at this program. So here in the picture you see my other teammates. They are, I'll show you here. So Vishal was a designer, Janni was also a product designer, Ramakant was a medical postgraduate, and Pushkar here was our advisor. So we were called Team IV, and V is greater than I. Really, our project was to think about how you can find veins in a person. They may be a baby or any other person. So we did lots of brainstorming. We then shortlisted a few concepts, and then we shortlisted a few concepts and picked the one which suited our needs. And then now we have a patent under progress, and the trademark of our device has been granted. And then really the next few steps are to really fail fast and fail early, to look at field studies, if we can really see the vein in a person and how you can access that quite easily. We used to do it for pediatrics. Then the new like I said, art was also one of my areas of interest, so I used to collaborate with these designers to think about various form factors, and how you can really alleviate the pain of a needle inserting inside a baby's arm and so on. So there could be a few things like make it like a toy, and really pain of of a patient. The next stage was that I got a fellowship, a scholarship to study at Cambridge University. Here are just a few pictures, and I consider myself extremely fortunate for being given this opportunity, where I studied. This is just a few things to tell you that I studied ultrasound. It is just another way of. It's just like another wave like we study wave physics, which is not really explored in detail, especially in the diagnostic fields. It's ultrasound, you might know from imaging, but I wanted to use it as a diagnostic tool, so I wanted to study the property of materials. So here are a few things that I designed in the lab to really test materials. So if you have two ultrasound probes and you put a thing in between them, can you excuse me, can you know what that unknown material was? So I really liked playing around with these things in the lab and doing some simulations and matching what I see in the theory in simulations and in my experiments. And they seem to match perfectly well to know the property of materials, mechanical properties of different materials. So then we extended it to why don't we study so why don't we study blood and other human fluids. So we did a bit of that analysis to see how blood material properties can be analyzed. And now, really, the final aim was to create an integrated acoustic device which gives you different material properties, which is really helpful for many different applications in biology, with the final aim to study early disease detection. So at this time, I concluded my PhD work and I was graduating. At the time, I also got this fellowship from Schlumberger Foundation, and I chose to go to Imperial College London, where I was again exposed to a variety of great leaders, and I got the opportunity to work for ultrasound sensing for muscle stiffness determination. Here you see some human tendons and ultrasound as studies. I'll skip through these parts because maybe it's
Megha,
a
you might want to take a sip of water. I we see that you're
Do you see my slide with September 17 to November 18?
yeah.
Yeah.
So this is like a personal turning point because we were trying to grow our family, and during this time we moved from the UK to Luxembourg in Europe. So although distance wise it is a small change, but environment wise it was a bigger change because English is not the language of working here. So there are three different languages here, along with different challenges that you face, maybe as a woman, as a trailing spouse, as a non-European, and things like that. So my focus on in this period was to really think about how I can develop my life skills. So one of the things that I sometimes say is to, before I get pregnant or before I deliver my baby, I wanted to really be able to drive well. So I took many lessons to and failed a couple of times my driving test, but I wanted to get that done, ticked off before these things happen. And then I was sort of taking it slow during my pregnancy and maternity due to other health. I was utilizing my time in, as I said, learning French, and now I'm still struggling because I there are many levels in French, and I'm still at the mid, and I want to have a working proficiency in that. So that's another struggle and challenge that I'm facing currently as well. Then exploring myself to new opportunities and really exploring also what I wanted to do. So I realized my lifestyle or my skill sets are a little bit more wider or s- scattered. So I wanted to combine them together and maybe progress in a newer direction. I realized that I really enjoyed teaching and giving my advice. So I worked as a freelance consultant during that time, and I'm tutoring, teaching, giving talks. So I'm still doing that because that's something that keeps me grounded and that helps me learn too much. So that was my time. At that time, in this mid period, I wanted to show. Darshana, are we fine on time? I'll just maybe take 5 more minutes.
I think, Megha, that should be fine. It's very inspiring to hear various phases of your journey. So please keep at it.
Okay.
But yeah, no more than 5 minutes, please.
Yeah, okay, okay. So I wanted to show you a few glimpses also, and I don't want to really boast about my things, but I felt like sharing a few things along with pictures might make you feel that some like unbelievable things do happen, and I'm also like one of you. So here's one picture which was sort of a turning point. I don't know if you see, so don't focus on the award, don't focus on anything else, but this guy is pointing towards my belly. So he's a professor in the university here. So I was competing at this 1 minute pitch competition where I won something, but I was presenting the work that I showed you about the heart hole, and at that time I was pregnant. I was just one month away. It was really nice to be the only like elephant in the room, and still be able to manage things around your pregnancy, around your professional life. But just a week after this, I was invited for like a meeting come interview at this Lerome's office. That's where things sort of changed. So when I was walking towards the interview, they did not know that I was pregnant, but they were taken by surprise. But then we sat down. I showed them my work. I showed them my ideas and so on. And I was really going there with no expectations at all, because I had failed or been rejected at many interviews over here in Luxembourg because of various factors. And I was pretty sure that a pregnant lady would not be allowed or would not be given a job at this stage, because people might think there are so many different responsibilities coming her way. But I was really taken by surprise, and I don't know if any one of you have faced it or might face it in the future. But if ever you get a chance to really explore job opportunities also in pregnancy and maternity, really don't be afraid. You may be, like I said, you may be the first and the only one, but things may happen for you. It happened for me. So at this stage in Lerome's, I realized that I had another sort of an interest area, that is business, and why not combine that understanding towards what I want to explore in engineering, design, and medical. So really, Lerome's is a a research organization, an institute based in Luxembourg, who we do research in orthopedics and sports medicine, really to come up with methods for injury prevention for both athletes as well as common population, and create new knowledge and mechanisms of study. We have been few like about a year and a half ago, we had been recognized by the International Olympic Committee as one of the 11 research centers of excellence in the world who can perform sports related research. So we are quite proud of that and humbled by that. Right now we are working at an intersection. So my role here really as the managing director of this organization is to uh, collaborate and to manage various stakeholders who may be working in the clinic. So we work in the hospital. There are a few sports organizations, there are a few research organizations. At the heart of it, how do we manage research, collaborations, and generate new knowledge? So one of them is our human motion analysis lab. What we do is put some markers around a person's body, and when they are running on the treadmill, we want to study the biomechanics of their movement and really help them, either the patient's anatomy or help the surgeon make a right decision. So we have a few proposals underway about these studies, as well as during the last few months we had been um, submitting proposals to solve some aspects of COVID-19. So we were thinking about developing an app with various wearable sensors that could give indications about a person's symptom and really help maybe in earlier detection or right. So that's it about Leroms, and I just wanted to show a few glimpses. So I was invited to be talking at the World Leaders in Global Health at Stanford in 2017. I enjoy giving talks to a young generation, inspiring them, especially people from rural areas in India. These are a few pictures from Science Festival in Imperial, where I was showing these younger people how ultrasound works, and then we had
Megha, we lost you in between. Megha, can you hear us? Hello. I think we, hi Megha, we lost you in between, but yeah, I think you're concluding your talk. Please go
Yes,
ahead.
yes. So again, Darshana will share later about these lessons, but these were really the few lessons that I've learned in life. And I want to end by this quote by Professor Stephen Hawking, whom I had the great privilege of meeting him in person in Cambridge University. Really, this saying, this quotation of his really resonates with me, that intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. And really, if we don't change ourselves according to our situations, then intelligence is of no use. So, with that, I want to stop. Darshana, I think that would be okay.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Megha. If you can stop sharing your screen,
Yes.
that will be very helpful. So,
Mhm.
first of all, thank you very much for this very insightful talk and introducing our audience to this highly interdisciplinary area of biomedical engineering. I'm sure the audience is truly feeling inspired by your journey that is almost spanning the whole globe from like India to Americas to the Europe. So, I'm sure all the audience here, teachers, students, parents, they are all feeling very, very inspired with your journey. And I'm sure the young audience here have got some very interesting ideas about the work that you have spoken, from orthopedics to ultrasound diagnostics to heart implants. And of course, your journey of motherhood, teaching, collaborating, your science communication, and above all, like the role that you're currently in, consulting. So the plethora of opportunities that science and engineering can open for young learners. So thank you very much for your time today, and thank you very much for inspiring us with your insights in this highly interdisciplinary area and sharing your personal journey, which I'm sure is inspiring our audience today. We'll have some questions for you which will be reserved till the end, and if you prefer, you can switch off your microphone and your screen. And in the meantime, I will switch to our next speaker, which is Dr. Nikita Hari. So once again, very warm welcome, Nikita, to you to this uh, seminar on the occasion of International Women's in Engineering Day. So, to many of our audience, I think Nikita might not need an introduction, but I'll still introduce her for the sake of formality here. So, Nikita is someone who's truly inspired me at a personal level. We've shared our working spaces in Cambridge as well. So, here's a brief about Nikita. Nikita graduated in 2018 with a PhD in electrical engineering from Department of Engineering, University of Cambridge. Incidentally, Nikita and Megha both are alumni of the same department from University of Cambridge, and also happens to be a Faculty for the Future Fellow. Which she used this fellowship for doing a postdoctoral work at the University of Oxford. Nikita was a gold medalist for both her master's and undergraduate degree in engineering. She has nearly a decade of teaching and research experiences with several international research papers and over 40 tech keynotes to her credit at such a young age. Her multidisciplinary research interests include machine learning for power electronics, ed tech in developing countries, disruptive technology innovations in education, and its impact on sociocultural identities. Listed in the top 50 women in engineering in UK, and I think the only woman from India to have this honor in 2017, Dr. Hari is an invited global ambassador for the Queen Elizabeth Prize for Engineering. She has received many global awards in recognition of her initiatives and public outreach to promote engineering. She's one of those very few scientists and researchers who go into founding companies. So she has two social tech startups to her credit, Woody and Favali. And with a vision to engage, educate, and inspire youngsters to engineer society for good, Nikita has been a champion for diversity and promoting young minds from across the globe to study science. Dr. Hari is currently the Director, Technology and Education at Park Lane Capital Limited. She is currently using her experience and expertise to influence science and engineering diplomacy and policy, and serves as a consulting member of Scientific Advisory Board of government organizations and universities. For more details, you can visit Nikita Hari's website, drnikitahari.com. And with this, over to you, Nikita. Uh, Again, I would like to extend you a warm welcome on behalf of the whole VigyanShaala team and the audience. We are eagerly looking forward to hearing you. Over to you.
Very good evening and good noon to all of you. Many thanks to VigyanShaala team, especially Dr. Darshana Joshi and Dr. Vijay Venugopalan for the kind invitation. I'm delighted to be engaging with you all today. I would like to begin my talk by remembering and thanking all the frontline workers, 70% of whom are women, for their selfless services and sacrifices at the face of this devastating pandemic. So the COVID-19 has finally highlighted to the world the always essential role of the working heroes who are women. Today is the International Day of Women in Engineering. We now proudly celebrate the achievements of female engineers who are leading and fostering a world that works for generation equality. So this is happening despite the harmful gender norms that are influencing women's lives. We are breaking barriers in spite of stereotyping and exclusion. Today, more girls are attending and completing STEM schools and gaining access to professional skills they need to excel for themselves. As entrepreneurs, initiators of global movements, and as innovators, like the two amazing women you have seen here, women like Darshana and Megha, along with a few hundred others, are fostering a world that is relevant for us and our future generations. So while the world is renewing its commitment to girls to pursue their dreams, uplift their self-esteem, and celebrate our talents, we were hit, boom, by this unprecedented pandemic, pushing these efforts backwards, as women and girls are disproportionately and unjustly affected by this crisis. And so, this is exactly why conversations like we are having now needs to happen. Let us start with looking at what engineering is. To me, engineering is magic. It is in everything and all around us. As engineers, we look after the places people live in. Engineers create products and services that improve the quality of life, safety, and health of users, are deeply involved in education and research, and lead countless engineering enterprises that contains the seeds of future innovation, productivity, and growth. You have seen the importance of engineers, especially during this pandemic. Now, in simple words, as for me, engineers make things, we make things work, and we make things work better. Now, even in the 21st century, when we talk about engineering, science, and technology, it is really unfortunate that it is still seen as a majorly male-dominated field, right? It's not surprising then that we have a tragic representation of women in STEM, especially in engineering and tech leadership. We see women's success stories as all about smashing glass ceilings and shattering stereotypes to break into leadership. So I understand this would be a very wide spectrum of audience, especially students with very different ambitions and goals. I will be sharing my experience with you through my journey, mostly my personal journey, so that it will help you understand my transition from being a student to an engineer, researcher, academic, entrepreneur, and so on. So alongside my academic and professional evolution, there is this part of my leadership capabilities being nurtured and structured. Let's say from being a school leader to a college departmental secretary to being the vice president at the University of Cambridge Graduate Union. I've always been at the forefront of leadership roles. But the shift, let's say, to more real-life leadership roles, like being an academic, chairperson, director, co-founder, or an influencer, it's not a smooth sail at all. So looking back and looking forward, I like to see my story as a continually evolving process, a journey, and definitely not as a destination. So, every story is different, every journey is unique. And so today, I will walk you through my engineering journey, examining the many gender specific factors that challenged my growth, highlighting the decisions that helped me navigate the gender barriers before me in the form of few takeaways. But you need to take it with a pinch of salt, because at the end of the day, every person is different and we all have our own priorities and choices in life. Now, I was a very, very competitive girl who wanted to always be on top of the class, and I'm still unapologetically ambitious. So my first point is always strive for excellence, whatever be your gender. I like dreaming big, and as people around me knew it too. And it was during, when I was 4 or 5 years of age, I think, the shock of being a girl and the indifference started to hit me. People started making comments about my appearance, or how, the color of the skin, or how short I was, and so on and so forth, and with random strangers lecturing me on how I should develop my culinary and domestic skills and so on. So I think it was because of this, and I'm sure many girls out there can relate to things like this. And I was lucky enough to have a family whose pride didn't rest in their daughter's culinary skills, and so my mother especially encouraged me to participate in debate, speech, essay competitions, and so on. So my initial distaste with patriarchy started from this disgust to people who saw education as a hindrance to a woman's marital prospects. So I grew up battling against a very conservative upbringing and background that saw girls as a marriage material. But sadly, even 30 years from then to now, I think it's still a global issue, if not particularly an Indian issue. Now, moving on, I was a top scorer for my school, but see, being a girl, I was forced to study in an engineering college nearby and so on, and people were forcing me to take up computer science because it was a ladylike subject, but I stood my ground and took up electronics and instrumentation engineering. I was a topper in my class and a gold medalist for the Cochin University of Science and Technology, bachelor's in technology degree. Now, see, this is a time when I realized that I had to, if I need to reach somewhere in life, I needed to stand up for my aspirations and my goals. Because I was not really happy with the college, the decisions then. So from then on, I decided that hereafter, I will not allow my future to be dictated by anyone. And that decision will ultimately become the most important turning point of my life. So since I was lost in life, I was, experimenting with choosing to write different competitive exams like MBA and so on, and I flunked badly. Finally, I topped a master's entrance exam in SRM University and decided to pursue my master's. So it was a very big step for me, because in my family, no one had studied for a master's by going abroad and so on. So it was also during this time that my world started to open. So I would always say you need to be disciplined and dedicated, whatever be your goals. So from my state to another was a huge step, and it broadened my exposure. And it was during my second year of master's, during my project work, that I figured that I had an aptitude for research. My passion for teaching and my interest in research motivated me to pursue a PhD degree. After graduating with the first rank in MTech, gold medalist, and so on, I joined as a lecturer at National Institute of Technology, NIT Calicut, where I was parallelly preparing for IIT. So you can see my, dreams started getting bigger, or I was getting more confident that it was attainable. And at that juncture, IIT was the biggest, that I could even think about. So I decided, I got in at IIT Delhi as a research associate, and it was during this time that some of the faculty and colleagues there encouraged me to apply abroad. And the first time that I realized that my CV was worth something of that sort. So I resigned, came back, started my application. And during this time, there are obviously a lot of personal issues, with your age and you being unmarried and so on and so forth. But I strongly believe and remember The Alchemist, with those lines, those very significant lines that says, if you want something very, very badly, the whole world will conspire in helping you achieve it. So the key there is the determination to hold on and just hang in there. I had absolutely no knowledge of how to do this in the right way. I never knew anyone who studied abroad. So Google was my friend, and I had to maintain secrecy because I was going abroad before my marriage, and it was like a huge scandal in the small town I was in. Then I got into Cambridge, Oxford, Manchester, Edinburgh, all the top universities I applied to with scholarships, and the story spread, and I was featured in papers and so on, being the first person to make it to Cambridge and so on. So in September 2013, I landed in Cambridge, and it was like living a dream. I cannot put those emotions into words. I was traveling abroad for the first time, and that itself was a great learning experience. It further opened my world. From then on, it was a phenomenal and adventurous journey for 5 years with phenomenal ups and downs. I would say I started out right in my research group, decided to pursue my work in a particular area called power electronics, gallium nitride power electronics, which I'll talk about in a while. I initiated collaborations with companies, which I did enthusiastically, but unfortunately, during my second year, around 2015, my supervisor left. Now, I had struggled, sacrificed, and survived my not so easy journey to Cambridge, and I was not ready to give it up for an unprofessional supervisor. So I decided to stay back, even though I was advised to leave. And that changed the course of my PhD journey, and not just my PhD, but my life, in fact. I was so often in my professional career, let's say, and it caused great havoc in my life. It was so in great anguish, and it was my friends who helped me even, pay a part of a fee for my third year because my scholarships were affected and so on. So one of the things that I hold on very closely and very dearly is that always know, and this is particularly for people who claim to be successful and so on, and they claim that they're self-made people. I personally believe that there is nothing called as self-made. You have to always build your social circle. You have to ask for help and advice. Even Megha had a quote on that. So always, never shy away from asking for help. You never know where that will get you into. So now, in between 2015 to 16, I started new collaborations, restructured my PhD into multidisciplinary, got invited to give keynotes. I was the first, one of the very few students who were getting that opportunity. I published almost 10 papers, won many prizes, but during all this time, I was also battling chronic illnesses, sexism, nepotism, corruption, and was even nearly depressed at some point. But giving up was never, ever on my agenda of things. Even though many suggested I give up and leave because I had some health issues, I was bleeding for 3 months and more, and I wrote my thesis during this period. So for me, coming this far, rebelling against a lot of people, tearing apart the fabric of my own familial setup was one thing. But more importantly, I was holding up a lot of girls' dreams. There was a huge responsibility I was shouldering, and I was personally worried that my failure would reinforce the age-old beliefs of where women ought to belong, at least, from where I come from. So I have always stuck to this mantra of never, ever giving up. Now, you can see I was running into my finishing my fourth year, where you run out of scholarships. And it was then that I had this wonderful friend, Darshana, who drew my attention to the Graduate Union Vice President post. I decided to give it a go. And I must say that she and Vijay was very helpful in providing moral and technical support
Hello,
to help.
everyone. I think there are some technical issues here.
Is there a problem?
Hi, Nikita. I think there was some technical snack for a while. I think we are back on again. So yeah, so you were saying giving up was never on your agenda. So yeah.
Okay. So yes, giving up was never on my agenda, and I think that was something that has been defining my life. I was running into my fifth year, which where I was running out of scholarship, and it was when Darshana drew my attention to the Graduate Union Vice President post. I decided to give it a go, and I must say that she and Vijay were very helpful in providing moral and technical support to help me navigate my PhD crisis, for which I'm forever grateful. So the Vice President post, in fact, provided me with the right platform to campaign for accountable and responsible PhD supervisions, giving me the opportunity to help review and work to change the guidelines and rules affecting PhD students. So I was able to change a catastrophe in my life to something productive and useful for others, which I will always be pleased about. So it was during this time that I discovered my interest in policy and its utmost significance in changing society's systems and structures. So in the course of 5 years, I've published numerous papers, given at least 15 plus keynotes, got numerous scholarships, including from Google and so on, collaborated with 4 MNCs and 2 universities, all independently. And it was during my 4th year that I applied for the research fellowships, which are highly competitive, and I was awarded the Schlumberger Fellowship.
Nikita, sorry, your slides are not changing. Can you pause your screen share and restart it again, please? I think we are stuck on the, yeah, now we can see Fawali's slide we are able to see now. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay, so I was awarded the top 50 women in engineering and so on. Darshana has already talked about it. And I personally always believe that hard work will always be rewarded. So it was during this very low period in my life that I stumbled on a friend who invited me to co-found a startup, and thus was born Fawali. I realized I loved being in a team, sharing the same vision with people having complementary skill sets. So Fawali was all about training, managing, and matching marginalized youth in slums to coding. So basically, it was meant to address the digital divide and digital literacy issue that we are debating nowadays. And this later motivated me to co-found another startup with my brother called Woody, which is an AI-based talent and skill discovery platforms for students. I'm not going in depth into detailing about it because of the time restrictions, but I will definitely talk a bit about my research. See, you're all aware, we all know that the world deals day in and day out with electrical power conversion. Trillions of adjustments are made every single second to deliver electricity from the wall outlets to power any of our electrical or electronic device. Now, these are made possible by systems that do this conversion, and they are called as power electronic converters. On average, these converters are only 90% energy efficient, and the rest is lost as heat, costing us billions every year. So you might want to think about it as when you touch your phone or any working electrical or electronic device, it gets hot, right? So that means, almost 10% of the power is lost as heat. Now, with increasing energy consumption, we all know about the efficiency requirements along with the environmental pollution control trends and the shift to digital economy. Silicon devices, which are conventionally the heart of all these converters, were failing to meet these challenging demands. So my research work aimed to address this problem of electrical power by exploring a better way of converting power using devices made of gallium nitride, abbreviated GaN. So these were expected to jumpstart smaller, lighter, denser, faster, and as human beings, we want everything cheap. So my research basically looked into bridging the gap between commercialization and the laboratory phase of GaN. So being the first to introduce machine learning as a key to gallium nitride power device modeling, I can say is my major contribution to the scientific community and power electronics industry. So my adventures here, I will not go into technical details too much into it, but I'm happy to take questions regarding it. So my adventures were a great learning experience, making me a stronger, wiser, and bolder person, alongside allowing me to grow professionally and gain global recognition. In short, the engineering journey offered me many opportunities, which came with its baggage of challenges, which always open doors to new other possibilities. As a student fascinated by physics and maths, I was drawn into engineering. And as an engineer interested in specialization, I got into power electronics, during which time frame my interest in teaching and research motivated me to pursue a PhD. The institutional and systemic barriers during the course gave me the freedom to use my meta skills in leadership, team management, organization, and communication to discover my whole a new world, my interest in entrepreneurship, especially in social initiatives. This ultimately helped me turn my passion in education and technology into a purpose, making an impact in society. So, alongside all these, it is my personal journey as a woman in engineering that motivated me to start mentorship, consulting, and public engagement as part of paying forward to the next generation of girls out there. So, and I'm currently using my experience and expertise to contribute to science education, policy, and diplomacy. To sum up, whatever be your gender, I believe that there is absolutely no substitute for hard work. You need to find your passion, need to discover your aptitude and skills, and with dedication, determination, and discipline, anything is possible, whatever be your gender. Whatever people told me as a child and whatever they tell me now, I have personally never allowed my identity as a woman to stop me from pursuing my goals. I have never felt the need to fit into the definition and image that society places on women, and I don't think anyone should either. It should be a personal choice. I'm here today because I believed in my dreams, I believed in my story, and believed in the millions of possibilities that life can offer, irrespective of my gender. So, whatever be your social, political, religious, cultural, and economic challenges, you should all learn from your failures to never ever give up. And as empowered women, to let us empower each other because we owe it to our future generation to build a stronger, safer, and level playing field. Now, to all the girls aspiring to be engineers and to the women engineers out there, I say, let us keep engineering our destiny to shape this world till there are no female engineers, but simply engineers. Delight to be sharing this platform with the amazing Dr. Megha Agrawal. Once again, I thank Dr. Darshana and Dr. Vijay and the entire VigyanShaala team for having me here today, and best wishes for your wonderful venture. I very closely follow all your activities, and I hope your flagship initiative, Kalpana, will inspire and enlighten the younger generation of girls and women to study and lead in STEM. Lastly, thank you all for being a wonderful audience. Pleasure interacting with you all, and happy to take questions if any. Thank you, Darshana. I hope I am on time.
Yeah, thank you, Megha. You are very much on time, and thank you very much for this extremely enlightening and inspiring talk, all the way from a small town in Kerala to the, the global stage of founding two companies, and your illustrious journey is extremely inspiring for people at any stages in their career. To sum up, like three things that really resonated with me in your talk is like the first one would be there's nothing called a self-made person, and I think this is a very very powerful message coming from both of our speakers, Megha and Nikita, that do not shy off from asking for help, and there may I add, saying if you don't ask, it is anyway a no, so you should definitely give it a try and ask. Nikita, do you mind switching off your share screen so that we can have
yes,
Megha
sorry.
back on as well? Um, yeah, and yeah, thank you. And the second thing that I really, really loved is giving up was never on your agenda. And I think that's another very powerful message from both our speakers here today. Oh, we've got Megha's little daughter, Surmai here. Okay. Yeah, a future engineer, hopefully. I'm not predicting, but yeah, maybe. Yeah, and I think another thing that would resonate a lot with all our audience today is how one turns a personal catastrophe into something powerful that it can impact thousands of others. Nikita had a very difficult experience during her PhD in Cambridge, which is one of the leading global universities. Not to say the conditions that are existing in other universities across India and also globally. She turned that personal catastrophe into shaping up a policy question, which was very, very like it's like a catastrophe in brewing within the university, and she utilized that experience to shape up the graduate student policy at Cambridge, and also initiating what is called PhD student contracts. And it's not only has impacted Cambridge, but many other universities across UK and globally are taking inspiration from that. So audience, I think whatever challenges you may be facing in your life at this particular point, remember, the experience remains, and the experience that you can take from there will help you shape and design something new. We had a lot of design work in Megha's talk, and yeah, so with that, I would like to thank our second speaker, Dr. Nikita Hari, for her extremely insightful and encouraging and inspiring talk today. Thank you, Nikita. It was a pleasure hearing you live and hosting you on our flagship program, Kalpana, which aspires to inspire millions of girls across India so that they become the innovators, leaders, and uh, women, and of course boys as well, not exclude boys, but yeah, all of them solving challenges of the future and today. So thanks to both of you once again, Nikita and Megha. We will now move on to some questions. So the first question is from Deepti, who is doing computer science engineering. She would like to pursue her higher education abroad in some reputed university. Her doubt is, what are the marks requirements? How many marks is good enough to get a scholarship? I understand it's a super generic question, so you both may have your own opinions on this. So whoever wants to go first can go first. That's all right. So yeah.
Um, yeah, thanks, Darshana. Nikita, if you don't mind, can I talk?
Yeah, 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 sure, go on, go.
Because I just need to leave in about 10-15 minutes, and I wanted to. I was reading through the private chat about the few questions we have, about 4 questions, and yeah, I leave the marks and the specificity to maybe to Nikita to elaborate on a little bit later. Some of them, for example, Jayashri, she wanted to know about sports medicine and the opportunities nationally and internationally. I encourage you, Jayashri, to contact me on maybe LinkedIn or other media, and then we can and explore together. We could probably explore together what you want to do. There's a question by Jaya Kumari about number of hours of studying, I think, and the strategy. And
Yeah.
Archana, she want yeah. So Archana's question is quite specific also about how do you negotiate between family and conservative outlook of your society. Sorry, Darshana, if I stepped on your
No,
agenda
it's
today,
okay. Absolutely, go ahead. Yeah.
because I had some time to look through and think about them, and I wanted to sort of combine a few tips and
Yeah.
that I want to share, and then
Yeah.
let's leave the specifics also for the later on discussion. And I encourage anyone who feels like I could be guiding you, or maybe
Yeah.
just contact me and we could have a chat. So regarding a few questions about how do you know yourself and how do you think about a few things, actually there were a few, maybe 2 or 3 simple slides that I wanted to, if you can still see my share screen, I wanted to show you a few things. Is it all right?
Yeah, please go ahead.
You can see a shared screen with this is called Ikigai.
Yeah, Megha, your
Darshana.
screen is coming up slowly. I think it's taking a while for them to. It's up, but I
No.
can't see it. Uh, yeah, it's up now.
Okay, so these were the few actually. Just 1 minute.
Challenges of a mom and a scientist. We are seeing it live today.
So there are a few things that I want to speak about how do you know yourself. and you might have realized that I like Venn diagrams and circles and so on. So this is a Japanese concept. The word ikigai means a reason for being. So if you think about a few things, and really questions from Jaya Kumari and others who wanted to know how do you know what you may be good at, or how do you strategize your studying and so on. Maybe concepts like these help, and I will be happy to share these few things if you want to, about knowing what you're good at, what the world needs, what do you love, what you can be paid for, and then really trying to find the sweet spot where everything comes together. So it's a good concept. I don't say it by no means at all that I am perfect at it. And the worst thing that could happen after today is all of you thinking that Nikita, me, Darshana, and others are some out of this world. We are only people like you who have still today. Even for preparing this presentation, I had my own share of doubts and problems. So it's never easy to know what you want to do. It's never easy there's always a trade-off. There's always so much else you can do. There's so much better things out there in the world. Other people could be so much better, but what is under our control is to know ourselves. So this concept is quite nice, and so I thought about it a lot, and I thought this is my so far my understanding of how do you know you can be your best working self. So I put down a few things together, that you all have a few things that you've done through your life. You think about them, sit down, introspect, think about your proudest moments, things where you were most creative, how much time investment or return on investment of your time that you got. um, how were you feeling? Were you procrastinating? Were you thinking about, I want to do this at this particular moment and not study, and things like that? So, and really nail down on how was your environment, what made you tick, what did not work for you, and keep a log of these things. And based on these answers, probably you can map yourself or the best settings at which you can work your best. And then you are not alone, and there could be other tools to identify yourself. I really like SWOT analysis, so strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats. You could use things like psychometric tests. There are a few from really, or visual tests. There are a few like Gallup, Belbin. You could some people can, and I do sometimes as well, think about horoscopes and other science out there. Think about what makes you best. So according to your own characteristics, your own personalities, there would be a few things like maybe you are more detailed oriented, or you're an observant person, or maybe you are a perfectionist, or maybe you are a zoom out person who looks at the big picture. So it's important to know these smaller things about you, and it's not like if you are one you cannot be the other, or if you are one you will always be the same. But it's a part of self realization. So it makes you help find the time to help yourself self reflect and assess yourself. And then you can ask for help from others. So there will be people around you, maybe your family, your friends, your professional colleagues, who can tell you what do they think about your skills and so on. So you could maybe ask people on LinkedIn and other media to write recommendations for you. So really not influencing their thoughts, but knowing what others perceive you as. So there could be some keywords coming out of from them, and then that could help you map yourself. There could be other two tips and tricks that I can probably share, but think about making an action plan, and where you are today, where do you want yourself to be in a few years from now. Map those things, and maybe things like this can answer to some extent some of these questions. But I just want to highlight again at the end that all of these doubts, feelings, is very natural. It happens to most of us. It happens often. It happens probably every day. So just live through it and find out what is under your control and what is not. So probably I hope it answered a part of what was being asked and it made sense.
Thank you, Megha, for your insightful comment. And I will leave it over to Nikita. I understand you have to go, but we'll be wrapping up the session shortly after, like Nikita's answers and a few points from my side. So thank you.
Okay. So if you don't mind, please allow me to stop my camera. I'll be listening, but I will be preparing to leave. Thank you
Okay,
all
got it.
very much for this great opportunity. I really enjoyed. And thanks, Nikita, for your very inspiring journey. I saw it in a whole sense today for the first time. Thanks, Darshana. Thanks, the whole team of VigyanShaala. And thank you, all of you, to joining in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Megha, for your time and your commitment to this program. Over to you, Nikita, for the question.
Oh, thank you, Darshana. So I will quickly try and answer Deepthi, who is from computer science and she wants to study abroad. Deepthi, just to give you, I'll try and cover most of the points very quickly due to time restrictions. So if you're listening, I would say do a thorough study of the branches or courses in the universities you're planning to apply. Application forms might be either expensive or it all depends, but just keep that in mind while you're applying. In some cases, it would be best if you contact the admissions team if you have any doubts. So compared to Indian and the Western style of applications, the application forms will be very lengthy. These universities look for the overall aptitude for your research or your, whatever course you are applying for, and not just the memorizing capability. It will have essays, so write sincerely and very carefully. They'll study your application for a few months, depending on the university. The more, better place they are, the more competitive. So always, try and understand where you are applying to and so on. So if it is for usual PhD positions, it can almost take a year to complete the application or your admission process. So then evaluate your application based on your academic merit, your aptitude, your extracurricular activities. And I say this because compared to Indian scenario, I would say, nothing small that you have done in life is insignificant. So try to understand who you are and try to sell your story in a very convincing, yet in a genuine and sincere manner. So the more better you are in narrating your story and what makes you pursue this, it will be, you'll have a better edge on others. I would say that once you start, looking into the application form regarding your marks and the cutoff marks for certain scholarships, it all varies significantly, and depending upon the countries and the universities. Also know that you will need to write certain tests like TOEFL or GRE or IELTS and so on. So always, shortlist, have this basic understanding that this is going to be consuming a lot of time and it's going to be a tiring process. Scholarships are extremely important and highly competitive. A thorough research in itself about the funding in the universities needs to be done before applying for studies abroad, as it's very expensive. So please try and apply, do that parallelly while you are planning for your studies. Ultimately, I would say take very good care while preparing your CV. So that is what I wanted to add to that question.
Okay, thank you, Nikita, for that very detailed answer. I think somebody asked about the marks and everything. So I have a small comment about the marks. Of course, marks are in a way first point of scrutiny for many universities, and that's how they shortlist applicants. But if you haven't scored very well, I would say don't be deterred. Find what is in your bracket and supersede your performance in a subject that you like. I am just giving a personal anecdote. I was good scorer in school, but when I went to university, I didn't score very high. I was just about 65% in my undergrad, and I had other friends who were toppers, and the topper of our batch was about 90%, and both of us ended up doing PhD in Cambridge. So it's about what you put value in and where you are sort of looking at. So it's very important to find an area that you're really passionate about and sharpen your skills in that area. Marks are, of course, a first barrier of scrutiny, but then they don't define who you are or what your application is all about, whether it is in India or globally. Various Indian schemes like Inspire, Manak, or Women in Science, and the Inspire Fellowship, all are giving you a plethora of opportunities where you can, custom made your subjects, your interest areas, and pursue whatever you like. So don't be disheartened. Just keep pushing in the right direction. Find the first entry point, which is the closest that you can get at the beginning, and then ask for help and excel in that. That would be my 2 cents to this particular question. Nikita, there is one question for you again, and Megha, if she's there. What advice from girls from small towns and villages? We heard in your story that you negotiated a lots of personal circumstances both at home and also in the society. So, in like as comprehensive and as succinctly as possible, what would be your advice and takeaway for girls from small
I think
towns?
thanks, Darshan. I've already, detailed it and maybe, ended my talk that way, but I wouldn't want to talk too much about it, but in just one or two sentences, I would say, you cannot wait for circumstances and your background and the family to which you're born into to change. That is totally out of your control. So if you want to see a change happening, you have to take an action, and that action should be the change you want to see, and that obviously involves risk. So I would say that you cannot get into the good books of your family and your society and everyone, and also pursue something that goes completely against their value system. So, understand what are your priorities and choices and what you're ready to give up in life to get to where you want to, or where you perceive yourself to be. So in simple words, that should be the balance that you should be able to strike. What are you ready to give up to go behind your goals?
That
And
was
then,
very.
yeah.
Sorry, Nikita, go on.
No, that's it. Just when you have that listed down, take a sheet of paper, write what are your priorities, what are the risks you think are involved, what are you ready to put in, and what are you ready to give up. And I think that will give each person the perspective, the answer that they are looking for.
Oh, this is a very, very fabulous and powerful piece of advice, Nikita. Thank you very much. I'm sure the girls and boys who and senior parents and mentors and everybody who joined us today for this particular talk would be very, very inspired with your powerful words. And I think I would like to end up this thing by a quote from you, which you say that everybody, like each one of you, have to believe in your story. And I'm just going to read Nikita's quote as it is. It says, believe in your dreams, believe in your story, and believe in the millions of possibilities that life can offer, irrespective of your genders. So girls, make your destiny your decision by never ever giving up your goals. So I think what she said in the end, that what you negotiate is what you will get in the end. So with that, are there any more questions? Okay, so there are more questions. Somebody's asking, the scores of maths is low. What can I do about it? I think we've answered that one. Advice for girls from small towns, that's also done. Family and outlook society, that's also we have negotiated. And somebody asked about sports medicine. I think Megha asked her to contact in person. Okay, so Jaya Kumari is saying she is in class 12th and loves science and wants to become a neurosurgeon, but now she wants to quit as she is finding it difficult. She needs a strategy for studying, how many hours you put into studies, and how to deal with distractions. So Nikita, your 2 cents on this, because you've been on a student and a teaching side both. So I think your insights will be very, very helpful on this question.
Jaya, very quickly, I think, you have it's great to see that you have a, very big ambition. You're a surgeon. It's something, and you should be proud that, you're dreaming big. But what I want you to know is that neurosurgeon is not like, something that you can become tomorrow. It's a specialization and so on and so forth, and it will take years. So maybe, try and talk to a neurosurgeon or do some research and work backwards. How many years till you become a neurosurgeon? What is the first step towards that? And what are the number of years and courses and all that you need to do to become that? But currently, if you are finding it difficult to study, and obviously you will be interested in medicine, I would say that start with small steps. Plan your each day. Begin with planning an hour of your time, and so on and so forth. And then build up on that. So as a student, I used to plan on even 15 minutes of time at some point, so that I can have better control of how I deal with my exams and things. But it's all very subjective. So I would say work backwards, plan each of your day and your week and months and so on. How to deal with distractions, this is a very personal thing. So you have, like I said, you need to put in a lot of effort and sacrifices to get to where you want to be. So neurosurgeon is something like, it is the profession of professions. And since you have this astronomical dream, you should understand that you will need to give up a lot of things. So discipline. If if it is about watching a movie or going out with friends or relatives when you have an exam the next day or whatever, it is just about the discipline, and that is something you'll need to cultivate with time, with small steps again, and so discipline and dedication. That is the two answers that I have for how to deal with distractions. Like plan stuff, and I would say, have the neurosurgeon board hanging right where you get up and the first thing that you can see, and maybe that will inspire you to deal with distractions all by yourself. Thanks.
Thank you, Nikita, for that very, very comprehensive answer, and emphasizing the importance of discipline and choosing what to give up. And giving up here doesn't necessarily means that you have to sort of become a sadhu mahatma, but you have to choose things very, very carefully where you invest your time. Your time is very, very precious, and every minute that you are putting in to achieve your goals is every minute that is taking you closer to your ambition and goals. I think that's a very, very important and powerful message from Dr. Nikita Hari today. So with this, if there are no further questions, I would like to bring it to a close, but I have a very quick question from you, Nikita, and maybe if Megha is still around, about what would be your advice to the policy makers. Like, this is International Day of Women in Engineering, and I think being women who were able to make it to the best of the universities and who are trying to create room for more young breed from India to sort of reach the global stage. And being involved in so many different things at various stages, I think it would be very, very important if we can have a small advice which is build on your personal experiences. I'm not saying that I'm going to make a breaking news story out of it, but yeah, a small advice to the policymakers if where they should be looking at.
Darshana, that is a very key question, especially with the pandemic, which was not gendered, but you have seen that almost all the countries' response to it was totally gendered. So what you need to understand is that it is very difficult to have policy response which is gender sensitive if the foundational structures are built so insensitively that little or no policy reflection on the there are structural inequalities. So what I would say to policymakers is that the structural inequalities in accessing resources, coupled with emerging impact on the evidence on the impact of the very low tragic ratio of women in science and engineering from schools to universities to boardrooms. It suggests that women's economic and productive lives are, have still not have been disproportionately affected and still not on a equal scale. So governments need to understand the specific contribution and needs of women as technologists, as business owners, and as entrepreneurs, and must be addressed when developing policy measures. To contribute to the economy. So for all aspects, whether it's about financial packages, whether it's about credit and employment benefits, to removing barriers for women to perform these higher skilled and better paid jobs in engineering and tech should be considered to have a very effective, inclusive and sustainable society. So, having a policy response which should be structured around ways such that will empower women to lead safe, productive and fulfilling lives. And we can, after having this blanketed statement and after ensuring that, and then boiling it down into how can each university or organization deal with their specific inclusion of women is what I think the governments need to look into. Sorry, I took some time.
I think that's all right. So thank you, Nikita, for such a insightful comment and such a wonderful talk today. So with this, everybody, we would like to bring this session to a close. And before we close, I would sincerely like to thank you all for being here and being part of this wonderful discussion and asking your questions with us today. And my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Nikita Hari and Dr. Megha Agrawal for their insightful talks and sharing their extremely inspiring journeys at a global platform in engineering, and of course their efforts in which they are trying to create room for more girls and boys from the Indian subcontinent to reach the highest global communities doing exciting research and development in engineering. I would also like to extend the thanks to our technical team headed by Vijay and Sagar, who've been at the forefront of solving all the technical issues. So thanks to you both for your efforts and your prompt action. And thank you once again to everybody, and wishing you all a very happy International Women in Engineering Day. And I hope, as Nikita said, there comes the time when we have individuals who are able to make choices not based upon their genders, and we wouldn't have a need to celebrate days like this, that emphasize for inclusion and other bits. I hope we will reach there sooner than later. So with this aspiration, a thank you, a heartfelt thanks to all of you once again. Thank you very much for being here with us today, Nikita and Megha, and thanks to all the audience. With this, I would like to bring this to a close. Have a good time, take care, stay indoors, observe all the precautions, and yeah, be safe. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you, Darshana. Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki. Thanks, Megha. Yeah.